I'm a conservative. I believe in the idea of freedom and liberty, but more importantly, look at my voting background. I voted against bailing out Wall Street. I voted against, never voted for a tax increase. I come through the grassroots. My family was not Republicans. I'm the youngest. I came to this party based upon choice. I believe the Constitution matters, that it's not just a few pieces of paper.
The words most often heard around the Beltway these days is Tea Party, nobody. Earth-shattering. And who is this guy? Eric Cantor's defeat in the Virginia District 7 primary recently was seen as a one-off by many. Cantor had too many skeletons rolling in the political closet. And the Tea Party might be enjoying the moment, but it was only a moment and no big deal. When we look back at this time, years down the road, the words to best describe it might be, boy, did they get it wrong. Welcome into Midpoint. Columnist for the FiscalTimes.com Fox News, Liz Peek joins us. Liz, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
How wrong are they getting it when they say those words?
Well, I think a lot of things went on in the 7th District of Virginia that led to Eric Cantor's downfall, but I really think that the most popular narrative, it was all about immigration reform, is totally wrong. I think Republicans really have to find a message that resonates with everybody, with sort of the average American. And the average American right now is extremely skeptical of the GOP on many fronts, but among them the fact that the GOP is so closely tied with big business. And if you look at a recent Gallup poll that came out about Americans' confidence level in various institutions, way down the ranks are a very small, like 21% confidence level in big business, almost exactly the same as organized labor. So, my view of the Republican Party is it is there to help people achieve their destiny, enable them, if you will, to carry out their pursuits. Small business, small government is a very popular. Small government, which allows people to flourish, allows people to start new businesses, do what they want to do. Unfortunately, now the GOP is so closely tied to the Chamber of Commerce and to big banks and other large financial institutions and business institutions that they've kind of lost their message, I think. And I think that's what hurt Cantor. Cantor was in New York all the time, raising money on Wall Street. And I think his constituents knew that. He didn't show up.
Then how do they get, the Republicans that is, get this message across and make people understand that it is a together party? Because, Liz, I think the one thing that I continually hear from people, and certainly what I see, is you have, the Tea Party and the Republicans. People see them sometimes as two entirely different groups, and they see them as not getting their act together and at least trying to be connected on a message, and that splinters the party. And many times people say the Republicans don't know what the left hand is doing, what the right hand is doing, because they're always arguing. They got to get that message together sooner or later, right?
Well, certainly we hope before 2016. Look, the Republicans have to take the Tea Party as a very appreciated and needed source of energy. The Tea Party came along in 2010 when the GOP was flat on its back, having been creamed in the most recent presidential elections, and for heaven's sakes delivered the House of Representatives. So how did that happen? It happened because the average American was incensed about the spending on the bailouts, on TARP, on the stimulus. That was all a small government message. People were horrified to see our deficits and debts blow up. That's a very strong and persistent undercurrent to GOP thinking. Republicans have always believed that we need to balance the budget. We have to be careful about spending. People understand that. That's a very reasonable message. You cannot continue to spend more than you earn. People get that. But then the Tea Party kind of went, in many states, off on their own missions, which encompassed a lot of social messaging and social agenda, which not everybody shares as broadly. Opposition to abortion, opposition to same-sex marriage. I think the Republican Party needs to stay focused on what we have in common. Admiration for the individual, aspiring to balanced budgets and smaller government. They need to go back, honestly, and read what Ronald Reagan used to talk about. Ronald Reagan really got it right. He understood what Americans were worried about, the overreach of federal government, etc. But he didn't talk a great deal about big business, and neither we should today.
Liz, there is a perception out there, though, from some people that there is a faction in the Tea Party, if not some, all of them, that simply have no desire to make peace with the standard conservative base of this party, that they are not going to have it. It's their way or the highway. Do you see that as reality? People, again, it's perception. And if it is, isn't it fair to say that that's something the Tea Partyists themselves have to back down on, or somebody's got to come to the middle somewhere in order to put this party together?
Well, again, I think that's a somewhat regional situation. I mean, we have people like Ted Cruz who I think kind of co-opted the Tea Party for his own personal aggrandizement. That's not necessarily everyone's view, but I think he has done very well bucking heads with the establishment and made a name for himself, and now he's a national figure, which he would not have been otherwise. But I don't think he's a national figure who could ever aspire to higher office, because really look at the polling on these issues that he's very adamant about. It's not going to support. The country is now pretty lenient towards same-sex marriage. Abortion is still a red line, and yet it's not necessarily all Republicans. It's kind of a strange political issue. But for example, here's what I think: we need to come up with some things that everyone can get behind, and one of those.
Liz, we may have taken it out for a moment. Hang on 1 second. We got a few minutes left. We're going to see if we can get Liz back. Hold on. This is what happens. There is a tremendous amount of opinion out there, simply, and you heard Liz starting to answer this question, that there is a faction in the Tea Party that simply does not want to make peace with the Republican establishment. She talked about getting a needed source of energy and the Tea Party being that needed source of energy. I don't think there's anyone who would doubt for a moment that those who consider themselves to be Tea Partyists are very passionate and are very involved in what they do. Liz Peek is now back with us. Liz, we kind of caught the half of what you said, so if you please go ahead and finish your statement. That's quite all right. Hey, welcome to the world of electronics and signal. It happens all the time. Go ahead.
Thank you. What I was trying to say was, I think there are some issues that everyone can get behind that can be very unifying to the Republican Party and politically extremely successful. My number one issue going into 2016, other than reforming and improving on our healthcare system on Obamacare, is education. Everyone wants a better education system, and the Democrats are so tied in to the very powerful teachers unions that they really have very limited scope for what they can talk about vis-a-vis better schools. But for example, one of the big issues on immigration, as you well know, is that Hispanics are becoming a much bigger portion of our voting populace. Hispanics.
The Hispanic vote, as Liz was saying, is something else that we need to discuss as well, because there are those who quite frankly say that members of the Tea Party, when you talk to a lot of the Hispanic voters, and I've talked to many of them, have for many years, having lived in areas such as South Florida, know a lot of the politicians, the people there, a lot of the community leaders, and many of the community leaders who are Hispanic themselves, they don't trust the Tea Party for whatever reason. A lot of this comes down to the immigration stand, but certainly it's something that they are looking to get some answers on. So once again, we come down, the two things that Liz Peek just gave us, and we're going to try and get her back here for a couple of minutes quick, is that Obamacare and education are the two things that she believes that the Republican Party needs to get back together on, and those are the things that she believes will bring this party back together. Consider, if you will, unifying messages of the party. If you were to talk right now to Democratic strategists, and we have the opportunity to do many of those here, and we consistently talk to them about the message of the Republican Party, if you dig right down into the core of what they tell you, many of them will say that, quite frankly, the Republicans are a mess. They will tell you that the Democrats look at it as a fractured party. They look at it between the Tea Party and the standard Republican Party, and they see that there is absolutely no way for these two sides to get together. It is something that the Democrats believe that they can continue to use over and over and over again. Now, this again comes down to that desire to move inward. It seems to be rather a pointed moment that if the Republicans are going to get together, if you have Tea Parties here, if you have Republicans here, sooner or later, somebody's going to have to bend towards the middle. Somebody is going to have to give sooner or later. And there are those who will tell you that the Tea Party refuses to give. The old core Republicans refuse to give. So if you're waiting for the Republican Party to make that huge move forward, it still has to come down sooner or later to both parties having to figure out a way to meet in that middle, because they still have to figure out how they're going to get those undecided voters. They have to figure out how to win back the Hispanic vote. There's a lot of things here that they still need to figure out, and they're not quite there yet. Liz Peek was nice enough to join us. Unfortunately, thanks to a lot of the technical issues here, we apologize. We're unable to join Liz. However, we will have her back again very soon, because we want to finish this discussion, because this is going on for some time, and this will take us right up to the elections. Tell us what you think on social media. What has to happen for the standard guard of the Republicans and the Tea Party to get back together and reunify the Republican Party? Tell us here, and on Midpoint, we will question everything.